The world turns upside down in an instant. An explosion rips through the gas station. Flames and chaos everywhere. People are screaming, cars crash into each other trying to escape, and thick black smoke fills the sky. But while everyone else runs away, one golden retriever in a red cape charges toward the danger. That's Superretrivier. You won't believe what happens next. This heroic dog braves the fire, searching through the wreckage for any sign of life. When he hears a faint cry behind a collapsing wall, he doesn't hesitate for a second. What he does in the next few moments will give you chills, and it just might restore your faith in miracles. So if you want to see courage in action, stick around, hit like, and subscribe right now, because you're about to witness a rescue you'll never forget. The blast's shockwave rattles surrounding buildings, sending shards of glass raining down like deadly hail. A searing heat washes across the concrete slab where the gas station once stood, and walls buckle under the intense pressure. Motorcycles topple, their tanks hissing fumes that ignite the inferno further. Witnesses scramble, dropping phones and wallets in their panic, eyes wide with primal fear. Yet Superretrivier doesn't flinch. His golden fur is already singed at the edges, but his eyes burn brighter with resolve. He darts past the scattering crowd, weaving between overturned fuel canisters and molten metal. Each step he takes is calculated, precise, ears pricked forward, nostrils flaring as he inhales the deadly cocktail of gasoline and smoke. The acrid odor stings his throat, but he keeps moving. Somewhere beyond the roaring flames, a faint childlike cry echoes, cutting through the chaos like a fragile plea for help. Superretrivier launches himself over a low concrete barrier, sparks, searing his back, and skids onto the blackened ground beneath a half-collapsed canopy. Memory flashes to his latest training session, the simulated rescue drills in abandoned warehouses, where he learned to trust his instincts. Now, those instincts scream that he's on the right path. He bounds forward, claws clicking against debris, heat waves dancing in his vision. The smoke thickens, turning visibility to mere inches. He pauses only to sniff the air, pivoting toward the sound of sobs. A wisp of wind carries the scent of fear and dust, a child's hair and fabric, mixed with the tang of adrenaline. Heart pounding in his chest, he advances, paws slipping on gravel and ash. Then, through a slit in the swirling smoke, he sees her. A little girl huddled behind a half-crumbled concrete wall, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes wide as saucers, and glued shut against the terror of the inferno. The wall offers scant protection as sparks cascade overhead, but she doesn't dare move. The heat is unbearable even 10 feet away, yet Superretrivier closes the distance without a second's pause. Gently, he taps the wall with his paw, careful not to unleash more debris. The girl flinches, then peeks through dust-caked bangs. Her eyes meet his, huge, tear-filled pools of relief. He emits a soft, reassuring whine, lowering his muzzle until he's eye level. With a practiced gentleness, he extends his muzzle under her outstretched hand. Hesitant at first, the girl grasps his fur, her fingers trembling. "Come on," Superretrivier seems to say. "I've got you." He backs up a few steps, giving her space to climb onto his strong shoulders. The wall's top teeters ominously, yet she pulls herself up, guided by his steady paw. Once she's safe on his back, he secures her by gently nudging her to hold onto his cape-wrapped harness. No time to rest. Superretrivier leaps over the debris, every muscle coiled for action, carrying the child through the burning maze. The world behind him is a symphony of destruction. The roar of fire, the collapse of metal, the frantic shouts of bystanders. But ahead lies salvation, the open road where fresh air awaits. As he bursts out of the smoke ring, sirens wail in the eye. Distance, paramedics and firefighters rushing toward the scene. He lowers the girl gently to the ground, nose brushing her cheek, as if to say, "You're safe now." Her sobs subside into hiccups, and relief washes over her tiny face. Superretrivier emerges from the haze of smoke, silhouette outlined by flickering embers. He pauses at the edge of the wreckage, nostrils quivering as he inhales the acrid blend of burning rubber, gasoline, and plastic. His keen canine senses work over time, mapping pockets of intense heat and detecting areas where the structure is weakest. Every muscle in his body remains coiled, ready to spring forward. But first, he must evaluate the battlefield. To his left, the metal frame of the station's canopy groans under the weight of molten fuel pools that drip like burning lava. Superretrivier crouches low, ears flicking as the steel above emits an ominous crack. A downward shift of weight signals imminent collapse. With a precise glance, he notes a narrow pathway between two concrete pylons where the debris is less dense, his best route deeper into the inferno. Ahead, flames roar in tongues that lick the night sky, forming a wall of heat nearly 6 feet high. Superretrivier retreads to familiar training drills. He gauges the temperature by briefly extending his snout toward the blaze, never too close to risk singeing his whiskers, yet close enough to assess whether the fire is stable or prone to sudden flare-ups. The core of the blaze pulses erratically, suggesting fresh fuel feeding the flames. He must move quickly before the inferno expands. Superretrivier's eyes lock onto a half-burned fuel barrel teetering on its side. Its hiss indicates internal pressure building. A secondary explosion here could send a deadly shockwave backward. He marks it as a red zone and plots an alternate flank to his right, where scorched asphalt shows fewer active hotspots. Though the path is longer, the risk of further blasts is significantly lower. Simultaneously, he scans overhead for falling debris. Chunks of concrete already litter the ground, and he anticipates more to follow. His paw pads, armored by experience, avoid shards of glass and metal fragments as he steps forward. He knows that every misstep could cost precious seconds. As he navigates, Superretrivier remains alert for human survivors. His ears swivel to catch distant cries and muffled calls for help. In one direction, he picks up the faint ping of a mobile phone ringing under rubble. In another, the soft sobs of a frightened child. Though assessing danger requires caution, he balances it with urgency, understanding that every passing moment decreases the odds of finding someone alive. Finally, having surveyed the flames, the unstable structures, and the safest access route, Superretrivier lifts his head and exhales, nostrils flaring in determination. He has charted his course through the inferno, identified the hazards, and prepared a plan. Penetrate the fire's edge via the pylon passage, avoid the red-hot barrel, and follow the child's cries to their source. No obstacle, no flame will deter him. Superretrivier steels himself at the threshold of scorching heat and swirling embers. His heart pounds, not with fear, but with resolve. He glances once more at the safe corridor he mapped out moments ago, then fixes his gaze on the trembling shape of the little girl hidden just beyond the flames. Every instinct urges caution, yet his loyalty compels action. With a decisive bark, a signal that he's committing fully, he lunges into the inferno. Paws strike molten debris and ash as he darts between burning pillars. Waves of heat crash against his chest, but he presses on, eyes locked ahead. The hiss of leaking tanks and the crack of splintering metal form a thunderous backdrop, yet Superretrivier's focus narrows to a single objective: reach the child. He inhales the acrid smoke, filtering danger through every nerve ending, then darts to the pylon passage, weaving skillfully to avoid the unstable fuel drum. Midway through, a sudden flare erupts from a ruptured hose, singeing the fur on his flank. He doesn't flinch. Instead, he narrows his eyes, uses his momentum to vault over a fallen beam, and lands in a crouch, ready to surge forward. Each leap is measured, Too fast, and he risks stumbling. Too slow, and the fire could cut off his path. But Superretrivier knows exactly when to sprint and when to slalom around hazards, his training and instinct perfectly aligned. As he nears the source of the sobs, the smoke swirls in whirlpools around him. His keen hearing tunes into the child's faint plea, guiding him through the haze. With one final push, muscles coiled like springs, he breaks through the wall of heat and finds the hidden corner where the girl trembles behind cracked concrete. He pauses only for a heartbeat, leaning in close to let her feel his reassuring presence, before gently nudging her forward. A sudden shift in the cacophony of crackling flames and collapsing metal brings a faint, tender melody through the smoke. Child's whimper evolving into a soft, hopeful cry. Superretrivier pauses at the edge of a scorched fuel spill, nostrils flaring as he inhales the unmistakable scent of fear mixed with wonder. His ears pivot toward the sound, and for a moment, everything else fades. The roar of the blaze, the hiss of leaking tanks, even the roar of his own pounding heart becomes a distant echo. With deliberate care, he steps over a glowing ember and allows the child's voice to guide him like a beacon. The fire's heat still presses against his flanks, but he moves with a renewed sense of urgency. Each paw placement precise, each breath measured to conserve his strength. Through the swirling smoke, he glimpses flickers of movement, a small hand waving weakly, a strand of hair dancing in the ash-laden air. Superretrivier's eyes soften as he recognizes the courage behind that trembling signal. He emits a low, reassuring whine, his tail sweeping away stray embers so they don't threaten the little one's hiding spot. Every instinct tells him this is the moment that matters most, transforming fear into courage, despair into relief. As he edges closer, burnt debris crackles under his paws, but the path remains clear. His gaze never wavers from the child's silhouette against the fractured wall. Time seems to slow, each second stretching into a promise of salvation. And then, as if sensing his presence beyond the smoke, the girl raises her head, eyes wide with dawning hope. Superretrivier lowers his head and offers a gentle nudge, the first true connection in this sea of chaos. The warmth of his golden fur, tinged with the heroic red of his cape, shines like a lighthouse through the gloom. In that heartbeat of trust, both hero and child find their anchor. The promise that together they can escape this inferno. Through the swirling haze, Superretrivier spots the little girl's trembling form more clearly now. She's crouched behind a half-collapsed concrete barrier, knees drawn tight to her chest, clutching a tattered doll whose button eyes are streaked with soot. Her tear-streaked face peeks out from beneath dusty curls, eyes wide with both terror and desperate hope. Superretrivier approaches slowly, every step measured so as not to startle her. He pauses, just out of reach, and tilts his head, offering a soft, reassuring whine. The girl flinches at first, pressing herself deeper into the narrow crevice, as though convinced that any movement will bring down the inferno upon her. Yet the warmth in his golden gaze and the soft rustle of his Superman cape slowly coax her fear into trust. She sits perfectly still for a moment before inching her hand toward the hero's muzzle. Superretrivier lowers himself so that his nose is just above her outstretched fingertips. The little girl brushes ash from his whiskers, marveling at how cool and strong he feels despite the surrounding blaze. In that silent exchange, she finds the courage to stand. He then gently nudges her back leg with his snout, signaling it's time to move. She scrambles up onto his back, wrapping her arms around his neck and resting her chin against his shoulder. Superretrivier shifts his stance to give her a secure seat, his broad back a stable platform amid chaos. For a heartbeat, the world still burns around them, but the bond between rescuer and rescued shines brighter than any flame. Superretriviers. Tail sweeps aside falling embers as he prepares to carry her to safety. Superretrivier stands steady amid the smoldering ruins, the little girl secured gently on his back. He lowers his head so she can grip the reinforced harness sewn into his crimson cape, ensuring she's balanced as he begins the careful retreat. Each step is deliberate. He tests the ground for loose debris, avoiding shards of glass and molten puddles that could slip beneath his paws. The roar of the blaze behind them intensifies as fresh gusts of wind fan the flames, but Superretrivier's focus never wavers. With a soft grunt, he nudges a partially collapsed beam out of the way, creating a narrow passage just wide enough for his broad shoulders. The girl's small hands tighten around his fur, but he lets her know it's safe with a steady, reassuring whine. He pauses at the edge of a fiery gash in the asphalt, where seething heat threatens to scorch his pads. Then leaps gracefully over it, landing on firmer ground beyond. Sparks sizzle at his heels, but he keeps moving, each bound calculated to protect his passenger. As he advances, Superretrivier remains hyper-aware of every creak and snap around him. A burst of collapsing metal rains down, and he pivots mid-stride, shielding the girl with his body. The heat radiates against his flanks, yet he pushes onward, driven by the certainty that no obstacle is too great when a life hangs in the balance. With another giant leap, he clears the last stretch of debris and emerges into the relative safety, beyond the station's perimeter. Panting but unbowed, Superretrivier slows to a walk, allowing the girl to slip from his back onto the cracked shoulder of the road. Emergency lights flash in the distance, and rescuers rush forward to receive them. The child stumbles into her mother's arms, turning once to stroke Superretrivier's golden head in gratitude. He offers a final, proud bark before settling into a vigilant stance, ever ready for the next call to heroism. With the little girl clinging to his fur, Superretrivier charges into the labyrinth of destruction. Every sense is on high alert. Smoke burns his eyes and stings his nostrils, but he filters out the pain, focusing only on his precious cargo. The fire has begun to spread faster, fueled by ruptured fuel lines that snake across the shattered ground, creating new pockets of explosive danger with every second. Sparks rain down from the collapsing station canopy, lighting up the ruined landscape like a twisted 4th of July. Superretrivier darts left, then right, weaving through a maze of obstacles, burning tires, shattered glass, and leaking barrels. He's forced to take a longer route, his paws slipping for an instant on. A slick patch of oil before regaining traction and pushing on. Every heartbeat thunders in his chest, a countdown he can almost feel with each stride. Behind them, another explosion shakes the ground, sending a shockwave that topples a stack of metal drums. The reverberation nearly knocks Superretrivier off his feet, but he lowers his body, using his strength and balance to shield the girl from falling debris. He can feel her heartbeat against his back, rapid and frightened, and it drives him forward with renewed determination. A path that was clear just moments before is suddenly engulfed in flames. Superretrivier assesses the situation in a split second. Retreating isn't an option. Every escape route is closing fast. He scans for another opening and spots a gap beneath a collapsed steel beam, barely wide enough for him to squeeze through with the girl on his back. He drops to his belly, urging the girl to hold on tight, and crawls forward. The ground is scorching, and the acrid smoke turns the world into a blur. But Superretrivier's instincts guide him. A falling cinder lands on his cape, but he shakes it off undeterred. Each movement is a struggle, but he keeps going, inch by inch, until they break free on the other side. Just ahead, sunlight breaks through the smoky haze, a sign that they're close to safety. Superretrivier pushes himself to his feet, muscles straining, and sprints toward the light. The fire is closing in, its roar deafening, but he accelerates, leaping over a burning fence in one last burst of energy. He emerges from the inferno in a shower of ash and embers, paws pounding the pavement as he reaches the waiting arms of the rescue team. The little girl is quickly lifted to safety, coughing but unharmed, while Superretrivier collapses onto the grass, chest heaving but spirit unbroken. The race against time is over, and thanks to Superretrivier's unwavering courage, hope has triumphed over disaster. As the final echoes of the last explosion roll across the scene, a wave of intense heat washes over the ruined station. Flames dance along the crumbling walls, and the air itself seems to tremble with the threat of collapse. Superretrivier, body low and muscles taut, senses the structure's imminent failure. The very ground beneath his paws is shaking with each groan of metal and crack of splitting concrete. He barely pauses to catch his breath. The little girl, her arms still clamped tight around his neck, buries her face in his golden fur. Every instinct in Superretrivier tells him that one more second inside this inferno could mean disaster. He scans the smoke-filled world around him, eyes darting for an exit, then spots it. A narrow breach in the side wall, half obscured by billowing smoke, but still open. If they're fast, they might just make it out. With a reassuring nudge, Superretrivier signals the girl to hold on tighter. He charges forward, leaping over burning wreckage, cape trailing like a comet's tail through the chaos. Debris rains down, and for a heartbeat the path is blocked by a collapsing beam. Superretrivier launches himself sideways, sliding beneath the obstacle just as it slams to the ground in a shower of sparks. A plume of black smoke rises in their path, dense and suffocating. Superretrivier doesn't hesitate. He plows through, holding his breath and keeping his body low, trusting his memory and instincts to find the gap on the other side. The heat is blistering, but he pushes forward, guided by the sound of voices and the faint wail of sirens somewhere beyond the chaos. Suddenly, fresh air bursts against his muzzle, cool, clean, full of life. He bursts from the smoke and stumbles onto the pavement outside the ruined station, paws skidding on the hot asphalt. The world outside is a blur of flashing lights and shouting rescuers. The little girl blinks against the sunlight, then breaks into tears, not of fear, but of relief. Superretrivier stands protectively beside her, chest heaving and fur scorched, but head held high. Around them, firefighters rush in to douse the flames, while paramedics hurry to scoop the girl into their arms and check her over. For a brief moment, the chaos falls away. All eyes are on the golden hero, his cape battered, but his spirit shining, as the crowd realizes that the impossible has happened. Against all odds, Superretrivier has led the child out of hell. No sooner have Superretrivier and the little girl cleared the wall of smoke than a team of paramedics rushes to their side. The girl, dazed and coughing but safe, is gently lifted from Superretrivier's back and placed onto a waiting stretcher. She clings for a moment to his singed fur, reluctant to let go of the hero who saved her life. Her tears streak clean paths through the soot on her cheeks as she whispers a shaky, "Thank you, puppy." Superretrivier stands beside her, his chest still heaving from the exertion, cape scorched and paws blackened by soot. The paramedics work quickly, checking the girl's breathing, shining a flashlight into her eyes, wrapping a blanket around her trembling shoulders. One gently reassures her, "You're safe now, sweetheart. You're going to be okay." Meanwhile, another paramedic kneels beside Superretrivier, running careful hands over his fur. They check for burns, brush away the ash from his muzzle. and offer a bowl of water. Though exhausted, Superretrivier laps gratefully, tongue flicking out between charred whiskers. His golden eyes remain fixed on the little girl as she's loaded into the ambulance, refusing to leave until he's certain she's truly out of danger. The crowd that has gathered begins to realize the scale of what just happened. Some people are crying, others are filming with shaking hands, and a few start to applaud, soft at first, then swelling into a wave of cheers for the golden retriever who ran into the fire while everyone else ran away. A firefighter kneels down and fastens a temporary badge, a small gold sticker, onto Superretrivier's harness, honoring him as the day's bravest hero. Despite his exhaustion, Superretrivier sits tall, tail thumping faintly on the ground, eyes never leaving the girl's face, as she waves to him from the back of the ambulance. For a brief moment, amid the chaos and sirens, the world feels a little brighter. A miracle, born from disaster, and a hero, recognized by all. As the ambulance doors swing open and the little girl is carefully lifted out, a frantic woman rushes forward, tears streaming down her face. "Lila!" she cries, voice breaking. With a mixture of hope and disbelief, the little girl's eyes widen. With a trembling smile, she calls out, "Mommy!" and reaches for her mother's outstretched arms. The reunion is raw and overwhelming, mother and daughter clutching each other, sobbing, with relief as the gathered crowd looks on. The mother kneels to examine her daughter, touching her face, as if to make sure she's really safe and real. She murmurs grateful words between sobs, stroking Lila's hair and covering her with kisses. Paramedics reassure her, "She's okay, just a little smoke inhalation and some scrapes. Your little girl is brave, and she had a guardian angel." All eyes turn to Superretrivier, who stands at a respectful distance, tongue lolling, tail slowly wagging. Lila's mother approaches him, tears sparkling in her eyes. She kneels and embraces, the golden retriever burying her face in his singed fur. "Thank you, thank you," she whispers over and over, her voice trembling. Superretrivier nuzzles her gently, accepting her gratitude with quiet dignity. Word of the rescue spreads quickly. Bystanders and emergency workers gather around, some snapping photos, others simply watching in awe. Someone places a water bowl at Superretrivier's paws, and another drapes a fresh blanket over his back. Lila, now bundled in her mother's arms, manages a weak smile and waves to her furry savior. In this moment, the horror of the explosion fades, replaced by the warmth of family, gratitude, and hope. Superretrivier sits tall, ears perked and eyes bright, not seeking glory, but simply content to see the little girl safe. He's not just a hero, he's a symbol of what courage and love can accomplish in the darkest moments. News of the rescue spreads like wildfire through the neighborhood. Within hours, the gas station, once a scene of chaos and destruction, becomes a gathering place for grateful neighbors, first responders, and curious onlookers. Videos of Superretrivier's daring charge into the flames begin circulating online, and soon, he's the talk of the town. Children arrive with homemade thank you cards, some decorated with crayon drawings of a golden dog in a red cape. Local shop owners bring bowls of water, treats, and even a fresh bandana emblazoned with the letter R to replace his singed one. Firefighters salute. Superretrivier with respect, and the mayor herself arrives to offer a medal of bravery, a golden, tag shaped like a star, to the humble hero. A small ceremony forms on the sidewalk. Lila, still wrapped in her mother's arms, walks up to Superretrivier and gently clips the medal onto his harness. The crowd cheers, and a sense of unity sweeps through everyone present. For a few precious minutes, there are no worries about tomorrow, only gratitude for the miracle that unfolded before their eyes. Superretrivier, tail wagging and eyes shining, sits proudly at the center of the crowd. He's petted and hugged, photographed and cheered, but he never loses sight of Lila, always casting glances her way to make sure she's safe. Parents point to him as an example for their children, whispering lessons about courage and kindness. Even as the smoke from the disaster lingers in the air, hope burns brighter. The story of Superretrivier doesn't just bring relief to a single family, it inspires the entire community to look out for one another, to believe in miracles, and to recognize that sometimes the bravest heroes come on 4 legs with a wagging tail. 12. Closing reflection. As dusk settles over the city, the echoes of chaos have faded, replaced by the soft hum of voices sharing stories of courage. The burnt shell of the gas station stands as a stark reminder of the day's disaster, but at its edge sits Superretrivier, golden fur gently tousled by the evening breeze, his new metal glinting in the fading light. He lies quietly on the cool grass, away from the cameras and celebration, watching as Lila rests peacefully in her mother's arms. Nearby, families reunite, neighbors comfort one another, and children recount the story of the dog who wore a cape and saved the day. The mood is lighter now, laughter mixing with the afterglow of relief and awe. Superretrivier closes his eyes, for a moment listening to the comforting sounds of life, returning to normal. His work here is done. The world doesn't always notice its everyday heroes, but tonight, the golden retriever with an R on his chest has become a legend, not because he sought glory, but because he answered the call when it mattered most. As the stars begin to twinkle overhead, a gentle hand strokes his head. Lila, now safe, whispering one last, "Thank you, Superretrivier." He lifts his head, tail wagging softly, as if to say, "Any time." And as the story comes to a close, viewers are reminded. Even in the darkest moments, hope can shine through, sometimes on 4 paws and in R-ed cape.